Okay. Hello, world, and welcome to South of Hollywood. Woo woo! I am here with my girl Felicia Holman.
Hey.
Yes, and I am so excited to have you as my co-host today. So, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
All right. Well, first of all, Ife, thank you once again for inviting me. And yeah, really honored to be on your show. And I am Felicia Holman, she, her, uh, native Chicagoan, and Chicago is the native land of the Council of Three Fires, the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi people. And I am, man, a I'm a cultural producer. I'm an artist, I'm a writer, a performer, a facilitator, a presenter. Chicago is my hometown, so this is home base for my artistic practice. I'm currently in my second and final year of my three walls artistic fellowship called Rad Low, research and development outside the walls. So in that fellowship, I am developing basically a uh, decolonized art service, art programming platform, hyper local to my neighborhood, um, as a sort of segregation intervention via the arts. So it really goes in tandem with the work that I've been doing over the last couple of decades in terms of independent cultural production, performance, writing, etc., etc. So,
Yeah.
oh, and of course, I'm a purple army. I don't know if you can see the buttons.
Yes. Oh,
You know,
Prince.
my
Oh,
man.
that's a nice button. Oh, three-color button. Yeah, that's
Oh
nice.
yeah, my man Prince Rogers Nelson. We have the same birthday as well. So Gemini with a bullet, June
Mhm.
7th, Gemini.
Hot, hotness.
Um, and yeah, I think that's about it for me for right now. That's all the people need to know right now.
First of all, that's everything. Yes. Okay. That is what it's all about. You are just ready. I really can't remember when we met each other. I feel like we've known each other forever, but it's only been like maybe like 7 or 8 years, maybe.
I feel right, like somewhere in like that 2014, 2015
Yeah.
area. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, yeah. Because I mean, we have some concentric, degrees of separation and
Yeah.
everything. And
Yeah.
we're going to
Lots.
get into it.
Yeah, lots of good friends. So yeah, let's get on, South of Hollywood. We talk about film and TV. And I still wanted to have you on because you are an artist and you definitely dabble in filmmaking. So, what are you watching? What are some TV shows or, movies or alternatives? If you're not watching TV, where do you watch your media? What are you watching right now? Or listening?
Yeah. So pretty much, because I am essentially still like semi quarantining, really. I'm not going to movie theaters. I don't have a streaming cable package. I don't have Roku or HBO Max, none of that. So pretty much what I watch is whatever comes across my timeline on YouTube or other social media networks or platforms. But what I last week I caught the last night of and this is the second year because of COVID, but the Black Harvest Film Festival here in Chicago, presented by the Gene Siskel Film Center here in Chicago. And so I caught the last night and I caught two films. The first one was by a local filmmaker and another, fellow friend and sometime collaborator, David Weathersby. His film is called It's Different in Chicago. And it really looks at and talks to different people throughout the house and hip hop communities here in Chicago to talk about the historical rift actually between these communities and cultures. And yeah, it's yeah, really unfortunate that these genres that are really like kissing cousins, but there's just such a rift. So there was that movie, and then there was another movie in that festival lineup called Maya and Her Lover, and that's an indie film. It was produced in Brooklyn, and yeah, a May December romance, very hot, very intense. Woman of a certain age. I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Taking
and
on
a younger lover.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, hey, hashtag relatable content.
Okay. Relatable.
So those are two films that I've watched recently and enjoyed. Um, but in terms of TV, like really the only thing that I'm really checking for, and I listened to the podcast for this TV show, Insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been listening to the companion podcast, Insecurity, TEA, the official podcast. And, it had these two awesome co-hosts who are co-hosts on other podcasts that I listen to. So it's Crystal West from The Read. I love
I'm a huge fan. Yes.
Ooh, I love those people. They are just, oh my gosh, Kid Fury and Crystal, their chemistry too is just mwah.
Off the charts, yeah.
So good. And then Hey Fran Hey, who is a co-host on The Friend Zone, which is basically the sister podcast of The Read. They're both on the Loudspeakers Network.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I knew Fran had a podcast, but I don't even think I've listened to the Friend Zone. I think it always downloads into my podcast history though. It's always in my library.
Because the Friend Zone, there's 3 co-hosts. So it's Fran, Asante, and Dustin. And then the Read has Kid Fury and Crystal. So, but yeah.
And I think Dustin is on B. Scott.
I think it's I forget, it's one of those Fox Soul shows. I forget, and it's a lawyer lady, right?
No, I was talking about, it's another podcast, the B. Scott Show, which is another queer Black podcast.
Oh, okay. He's on.
Justin is on that podcast too.
Okay, I see. All right, because I know he was starting to do like guest spots on like somebody had a Fox Soul show. I don't know, one of these Real Housewives or whatever. And I think he was getting involved in that. Yeah, Dustin be getting around with his fine ass.
Yeah, I think that's him. Yeah. So because B. Scott is all about the Real Housewives. So that's my connection. I think I heard his name in there somewhere. Maybe he's the boyfriend. Somebody will tell me.
But he's also from Detroit. Well, no, Flint. Actually, he's from Flint, Michigan.
Oh yeah, Midwest represent. So I love Insecurity. It's such a great podcast. And how does it feel listening to the podcast without watching the episode though? That's kind of freaky.
Hey, you know what? I gets my freak on.
Yeah.
It is cool because and the thing is, because it's the official HBO podcast, so they have like snippets of the show interspersed into their commentary and their highlights, right? So I really get a sense of it. And there's also, what I just thought about too, there is a vlogger. She is fantastic. She really does these in-depth dissections. So it's not just a review, but it's like a dissection. And she's a producer, independent filmmaker on YouTube. Her name is Just Latasha.
Okay.
And so she does like these deep dives of dissecting TV shows. And so like she did Lovecraft Country. She's done like all the seasons of Insecure. So she's really going in for this final season. So I enjoy watching her too, because even though she doesn't have snippets of the show, she like breaks down the visual components too and talks about the color schemes. She did a wonderful dissection of I May Destroy You. Like before I actually was able to watch the show, I was purely just watching her dissections. And so by the time I saw it, I was just like, wow, like she really broke it down. Like, so
Yeah,
that
I actually love podcasts of shows. And Issa
yeah.
Rae actually does her own wind down too, where she kind of dissects the
Yeah, at the end of the show.
yeah.
Yeah,
I love those. I love those. They actually help me a lot of times understand, because sometimes now that's why I love on demand too. Because sometimes the episode just goes too fast and I don't really understand what I just watched, you know? So to go back and watch it again, or to hear the podcast where they go slowly, or because a lot of times I'm like, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, okay, I missed that, you know, like, or sometimes they'll say something and I'm like, oh my God, I totally missed that line, you know? So yeah, I love to get the introspective part after I watch an episode. Sometimes before though. I mean, I think that would be helpful too. I just don't like spoiler alerts, you know. I want to
right. I don't want no spoiler for, well, particularly for something that I know I'm gonna see. Like if it's for, you know, I don't care if people talk about like the Marvel universe or whatever. Like, no shade.
No shade, but I feel you. So let's get into, you know, some serious matters, some hot topics that are going on in the world out here. So
let me get my Remy ready.
Yes, let me get my drink too, because this is ooh, take a sip, girl.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What's up with that? Yeah.
I know. Okay, so I had to represent with my little something for Chicago, you know.
Yes.
So seriously though, the Supreme Court actually heard Mississippi's case this week, which seeks to ban abortions prior to the common 15-week standard. It wants to lower it also to the 6-week standard, the same as Texas. Now, this is just ridiculous. First of all, the court even taking the case up is problematic, because nothing in the law has changed to warrant needing to go to, right? They should have dismissed the case on the grounds that you have a right to the abortion and we've already settled these things. Right. But they took the case. Now people are like hearing the comments from the judges, which are just fucking ridiculous. Yep. We got Kavanaugh talking about, why should the Supreme Court decide this? Why shouldn't states decide it? Well, let's just bring back slavery then too.
Right, because that was the exact same argument. Like
that there can be, you know, that we can't just let every state do what the fuck they want, because then they'll start doing crazy fucking shit. That's why fucking Brett Kavanaugh. And if you thought that, why are you on the Supreme Court? You're literally saying, oh, we don't need the Supreme Court to decide things. We don't need a federal law to decide things. Sir, why are you on the Supreme Court if you believe that states should be determining every goddamn thing? Why?
It is so disgusting. I did not expect that after the Orange Menace left 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that shit was gonna be sweet, that there was gonna be some type of magic wand.
Right.
But the fuckery from January 6th
to today, it's gonna be December 6th, bitch. Like,
yes, like damn near a full year. And for me, like the Roe v. Wade over, you know, soon to be like overturned.
Yeah.
It's some Handmaid's Tale shit for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, as we were talking about, you know, the different types of media and stuff. Like, I just think about all of these ways that we are seeing every dystopian narrative play out in our fucking lives.
Yeah, right. From now,
reproductive rights
to banning books.
I mean, critical race theory. Let's get it. Like, literally, y'all are straight up on some Big Brother shit. Like, just trying to take it. And I see this play to essentially roll back Roe v. Wade. The motherfucking Orange Menace is gonna run again because he's not in jail.
Right.
The Rittenhouse verdict let us also know that was yet another red harbinger or breadcrumb, however you want to look at it, that that motherfucker's gonna run again and he's gonna win. I can't be here for that though. Yeah. I'm gonna have my black ass in Costa Rica
Oh, okay. I'm trying to get to Senegal right now. Yeah.
Listen, and let me get another sip on that, baby, because yes, the passport is getting
Getting
used.
used. I mean, that's the other thing we were talking about too. I mean, I am a woman who personally had an abortion when I was much younger. Thank God, okay, because I did everything in my life after that point. But I have never been so terrified in my life than when I was pregnant and I didn't want to be. And the other argument they made in the Supreme Court last week was, oh, well, first Amy Coney Barrett said, well, if the problem is with parenting, you don't have to be a parent. You could just have the baby. No, being pregnant was terrifying. The idea of giving birth was terrifying. I didn't even want to go through the pregnancy, bitch. Like, let alone the emotional distress of bonding for 9 months and then having to give it up for adoption, or neglecting this thing that's happening to your body where you're so disconnected, it becomes a moment of trauma because you can't even deal with the fact that your body is having this happen. It's when you don't want to be pregnant, it's tantamount to having a tumor that's just fucking growing and sucking the life
it's
out.
It's literally feeding off of you.
Yeah. So he goes, Brett Kavanaugh goes, well, what, or Justice Roberts, one of them goes, well, what's the real difference between this and, other ideas of murder? We don't allow other forms of murder. Sir, the woman's human body is the difference, sir. It is the motherfucking difference. It's in my fucking body. That's the fucking difference. And I'm so sick of people acting like there's some sort of moral for a fetus. I don't give a rat's ass. I am a living woman. And from the age of 13 to fucking 50 or 65, I can reproduce against my will. I can just be impregnated. So as long as women can be impregnated,
and of course, that means whether you consent to it or not. So rape means that is not grounds for abortion.
That's not grounds for. And my thing is, you could be in a relationship. You could be with somebody and you could tell that man, do not nut in me. And they will still do it and you'll be pregnant because that's chemistry. So
you heard of that crime in some states,
California.
Anyway,
yes.
Still thing like the whole, in mid stroke, like a motherfucker, play the bait and switch and take the condom off.
Right. Now, and again, that's going to be relevant in cases of pregnancy and paternity, right? Because it's going to be always his word against hers. But in the case of bitch get pregnant and she don't want to be, guess what? We're going to guess what you did? You supposed to wear a condom and you didn't. And you know why I know? Because I got a fucking baby now.
Child, I too have exercised my choice. In years past, and I too absolutely knew that it was the right choice for me. I absolutely knew that no matter what my domestic relationship status was with the father, like I would be tethered to that motherfucker no matter what.
What about that? Why I gotta deal with this person forever?
Like, I don't want your child, nigga. Right. I'm sorry.
No, and that's a reason, and that's what else pisses me off. I absolutely agree. Medical interventions. How dare you tell women and their doctors that they can't make that choice? That's out of control, ridiculous.
Out of control.
I absolutely agree with the cases of rape. And like we're saying, rape is actually a very gray area. It's not always you got jumped by a stranger in an alley. Sometimes people are raped by their fathers.
Most times it's not by a stranger.
Right. And you're telling somebody whose father raped them that they don't get to say, but the man can't ask for paternity or the right to raise a child. Like, it's ridiculous nonsense. And then 3, both men and women benefit from abortion. Why is it always a moral argument against women who don't want to raise kids and don't want to be, like that's the problem. The reason is you bitches don't want to raise your kids. So that's why you want abortions. No. How about men benefit also? How about men recognize when they're in a situation and they don't want to be and say, hey, babe, can you actually not have this pregnancy right now?
Listen, I have had the unfortunate experience of dealing with dudes who were dads and they didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yo, like Flavor Flav said, I can't do nothing for you, man. Like, I'm not here to be your cowgirl moment, sir.
It is.
Like,
It's a hard road to be in. Now, I'm not empathizing with men who leave their kids either, but I do understand that sometimes men end up with children against their wishes, not their will, because if they had the will, they wouldn't have came in that bitch. But
right. Bottom line, it's like, you do know how babies are made at this point, right? If you're sticking your dick in someone, you do know,
right,
if you're going wrong,
you're gonna have a baby. Yeah. And that's the other part. Where is the impetus, or where is the push for responsibility on men? That's the other
people
part.
with penises, right? Like, it's not just the egg in my uterus.
Yeah.
Like, there's another component here.
Yeah, there's another, and they just like, something about that is very bizarre to me. There's just like no discussion about men. And again, we understand that some men want women to get pregnant and have their kids, but some men do not. So where's the conversation about, hey, we actually benefit from abortion too, guys? Like, we can't just get rid of this because y'all want to punish women. Like, we also
literally, it's like, it's the idea of collateral damage,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, their ultimate goal, their big picture goal, is to keep women underfoot. It's patriarchy over everything. So that means also men's, preferences, different men's nuanced situations. So, when you got that type of bullshit run amok and allowed to run amok, like we were talking about, January 6th. Okay, like, nothing has really been resolved since that. Actually, it's just been more gaslighting, including from the Biden administration,
from the Democrats. Well, I want to get into that too, because just a segue into that is, the feminism, because I don't know how women are seeing the situation now, but I know Black women have been ringing the alarm for a long time. Like, this shit is going sideways. So now you got women around the country being like, oh my God, they're going to get rid of abortion. And it's like, I want y'all to march for this shit the way y'all march for them fucking pussy hats. I want y'all to get out here and get mad about what's going on in the Supreme Court and the voting rights and the abort. I want you to get mad, white bitches. What's going on?
And listen, don't forget that those bitches who showed up with the pink pussy hats, 53% of them
voted for Trump,
voted for the pussy grabber. So, and that was in 2016. In 2020, it was 55%.
And how many, and I'm not saying she was the best candidate, but how many white women do we have to hear say, well, I just don't want to vote for Hillary. I just don't want to, I'm a libertarian. I just don't want to vote for Hillary. I just don't like her.
They were in cahoots with the patriarchy because they had a husband or a boyfriend or a father or uncle or some white dick in their life that was like, you better vote right, bitch.
Yeah. Or just talk down Hillary, just talked her down to whatever, to nothing. And again, I'm not saying that's the best candidate, but we would not be where we are today. And that was their plan. That's why they wanted to get rid of her, because we wouldn't be here today. If she was president, we would not be here today. We would not be dealing with this. And that's,
although it's again like I held my nose and voted for Hillary.
Right. I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Because the super predator shit and just so much. And here's my thing about Hillary. I never heard about her mentoring or taking, interest in certain, young women who wasn't her daughter. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, her being like this feminist, icon.
I agree.
Asterisk.
Starfish.
So I mean,
definitely.
Real talk too. I gotta just say this since we talking about it. At the end of the day, in 2020, what did our choices come down to for election? 2 old rich white men.
Yeah.
Honestly. And for me, the fact that Kamala was on the Biden ticket, it made me throw up in my mouth a bit, because when she was on the primary ticket running against Biden, what was she saying? I stand with Biden's accusers. Then come November 2020, literally, sexy baby. We did it, Joe.
Politics is some bullshit. I mean, I'm with you, but my thing is the bigger. I'm definitely onto the bigger party too, because like with Voting Rights Act, you know, to have 2 Democratic senators deny what 51% of the entire country voted for, in essence, by voting for the president, you know, we agreed, at least on that regard, that we needed somebody to deal with these bigger federal national issues, one of which is voting rights. So for them to not want to participate or uphold at least the voting right infrastructure, we could debate, but the Voting Rights Act, the right to democracy in a country with a history, and this is the part that always kills me when they say, well, we don't need that. We literally were not allowed to vote until 1964, bitches. How in a country that legally denied people of color the right to vote, that legally denied women the right to vote, how can citizens, immigrants who became citizens, how can you sit up here and tell me in my face in 2021 with history that we have the history, the facts on, that America doesn't need to, codify minority rights to vote? That's history 101, bitch.
It's such a, there's been such a momentum over so many years of this revisionist ass history. Yeah. And this is why, arts programming and, cultural literacy curriculums and critical race theory gets, targeted, because it fosters critical thought, which fosters questioning shit and pushing back and resisting bullshit
and creating actual change, because there's a wave of resistance. That's where the change comes from.
That's right. And so, and that's why for me, like, I definitely worked in different corporate structures and, various aspects of the service industry in different industries. And for me, like the arts, my artistic practice, it had to, I kept it on the back burner as like a hobby, even though I was raised in the arts, I've been writing and dancing and singing since I was single digits. But, understand, and, the whole, the narrative and script of, oh, yeah, you're an artist, but what are you going to do for a living? The whole starving artist thing. And that's why now I'm like, all bets are off. If there was ever a time to leverage autonomy and boundaries and, pooling of resources amongst creative community, it's fucking now.
Yeah.
These cultural institutions and organizations, with all their fake ass, performative ass solidarity statements, and then 18 months later ain't shit changed. That's why I'm like, a general strike of creatives. I mean, they just averted that shit with the Hollywood, union. The union strike that was gonna happen, which would have shut the whole shit down. Yeah. Because them fucking producer was basically just trying to play chicken, Yeah,
I mean, that's one of the most powerful unions in America is the SAG and AFTA and the Teamsters union. Those are like the unions in America right now, because they've dismantled the teaching unions and the service worker unions. They still exist, but they don't have the power that the SAG actors have. They can actually move the needle on some things, because you can't produce television in LA without the union.
Right.
Nobody's making you can't do it. You got to join the union to make these shows. So yeah. Well, that brings me actually to your life. So let's just get into, you gave us a little bit of backstory about as a child, but let's just talk about what was your professional journey like, so, maybe after college or, after you got to Chicago, what kind of, or not Chicago, but you know what I'm saying, living independently as an artist, what was your journey to get there, and what did that, mean for your art? How has it progressed?
Yeah, it was definitely post-college. It was definitely, pretty much a journey from like my mid-20s, starting with getting involved in a local like guerrilla theater troupe back in like the early 2000s, maybe like 99, actually. Not even, it wasn't even 2000 yet, like 1999. And getting into an adult practice, because again, like having gone through different training programs like ballet, jazz, tap when I was a kid, and then being in certain extracurricular creative programs through grade school and high school. And then after college pretty much went into corporate cubicle land, was actually working at the commodities markets self-regulator, and which is based here in Chicago, because this is the birthplace of the commodities market.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first time having a salary and benefits and all that. So because of that, I prioritized my, corporate life over my creative life. And that went on for some years. And then there came a point in my life, a big shift happened. I was engaged, my engagement broke up. I went through a big weight loss. Just a lot of things shifted in my life. And then that's when I decided, this guerrilla theater troupe that I had been introduced through a person I was briefly seeing. But yeah, in that I basically got plugged into a community of Black creatives, independent writers, performers, musicians. And after that era, then was introduced to another group of all Black women creatives, and ended up forming a collective called, well, we're now called Honey Pot Performance, but we originally started out Thick Roots, ROUTES, Thick Roots Performance Collage. And we came together and formed that collective in 2001. And have pretty much been making work together consistently between 2001 and about 2007, 2008. Took a hiatus. Then we came back together in 2009 and started making work again. And so, if you go to honeypotperformance.org, you can definitely check out the archive of our works over the years. I actually have been on hiatus from actively generating work or co-devising work because I have had opportunities as a solo artist and cultural producer to develop some ideas outside of that collective. But like you were saying, like pretty much my foundation, my bedrock of my adult artistic practice is collaboration. And even in my solo projects, there's still a team and people who advise, or people who I collaborate or vision with, or technical expertise, which brings me to our collaboration recently this past fall, which you actually initiated with just an idea about my hula hooping videos, which is kind of like really the ongoing solo project in this pandemic era. I ain't nobody's techie. I don't even have my own website up yet, which I know my friend who is a webmaster, she is really frustrated with me. But
get a website, but
it's coming.
This day and age, I don't even know. I have a website. I'm like, does anyone even go to it or look at it? I don't know.
I feel like because I am so concerned about autonomy and agency, I do understand the value of having your own platform.
Yeah.
Period. And because these social media platforms are not FUBU, not for us or by us. So knowing that, like, it's just like with we were talking earlier about grant writing and funding, and you were sharing that you're like, oh, Felicia, you seem to have a handle on and it's just like, hey, I do what I can with what I got. but ultimately I'm trying to divest from my own decolonization work on myself, which can then impact and influence my projects, my communities, etc. Have that ripple effect. But anyway, I digress. I'm a Gemini.
No,
I
that's
am
it. That's it. I
I'm
mean,
interdisciplinary. I am collaborative. I am grateful that I have been able to maintain, even with my rudimentary tech setup, have been able to maintain a practice and maintain community.
yeah, I mean, so let me just dive into that a little bit. With collaboration, I think I met you with when you were working actively with Honeypot, uh, the Honeypot thing. So I just I always wondered, how'd you come up with ideas and just basically like you're saying, I mean, I know that kind of catapulted your artistic career, but what was it like to actually work with them and to be a part of this like, thick roots movement? I mean, y'all were just beautiful women. So what was it like to
Yeah.
collaborate on that and to build that?
Yeah, it was magic. It was alchemy. It was friends. It was Black women coming together purely because of, oh, I see you. I see the work you're doing. You're dope. I got the peanut butter. You got the jam. Bring, let's pool resources and let's make something here. Let's create a community, a collective. Our works have always pretty much started with our conversations as a collective, and those conversations oftentimes are coming from our own ethnographic, biographical narratives, but it definitely also aligns with the zeitgeist in one form or another. So there's always this ebb and flow of the macro and the micro. Sometimes the micro influences the macro, and many times it's the opposite, but we talk about these nuanced ways of living and knowing. There was actually a performance, the 2019 performance was the feature evening length show was called Ways of Knowing. And definitely valuing these narratives of valuing the everyday, the mother wit, or these ways that get marginalized, but help us as intersectionally marginalized people, as Black women, Black femme LGBTQ, all these ways, working class. I am not credentialed in the sense that I don't have a BFA or MFA or any degree. The only letters behind my name are my name.
No.
So, but I have to say that for me, even considering the fact that I'm not credentialed in those ivory tower traditionally canonized ways, it has been my relationships and my labor that has been my credential. My life is my credential.
No,
And
definitely.
so, folks like you, the fact that, you invited me to have this conversation and to, share my experience, that find it valuable in that way. And, the fact that there are other folks in my, creative community who, yeah, find my unconventional, seemingly disparate way of working.
I
But
love it.
yeah,
I love
it's
it.
about agility and openness, agility instead of rigidity, because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of times when you are steeped in a certain type of training or a learning tradition, you can just get so stuck on being, adhering by the book, right?
Well,
But it's
that's
like in this era, you
Well,
can't
that's what
be
I want to,
rigid.
yeah. And that's what first of all, let me say, I'm always inspired by you. I am just like, that's why I've tried to work with you as much as possible and cozy up and get under your bosom because I love you. But, but, you say that like, I kind of, for your Welcome to Bucktown piece that I kind of, put the bug in your ear, but honestly, you were already filming. So, I just saw what was there. Now, let me ask you about that. What made you want to start filming it? And what do you think the benefit of filming something like that and then ultimately us being able to edit it and turn it into a short video? Why do you think that was important medium to use in this case?
Yeah, for me, and just to give just a little bit of context about Welcome to Bucktown. Welcome to Bucktown is my fellowship project, my hyper local project that I was mentioning earlier, that I'm being supported through my Three Walls Fellowship. And it began in 2020. So, pretty much right around when quarantine lockdown started here in Chicago was when my fellowship began. And so in this isolation, and for me, my neighborhood has always been just a site. It hasn't been a community for me. It is hyper gentrified. I'm a black bean in a bowl of rice. And so this project really has, you know, it requires a certain level of vulnerability that, quite frankly, I was not ready to have, especially with a global pandemic. And, quite frankly, white folks who's not out here adhering to protocols, so I was pretty much isolated here in my 2-bedroom apartment, my building. And so I started not videotaping, I'm old school as hell, but capturing on my cell phone videos of my hula hoop practice. So I would go out on my for folks who don't know me, haven't followed my Instagram account, but I would film myself in my hula hoop practice. And it became a not necessarily daily, but definitely regularly scheduled. There would be at least a couple of hoop videos a week. And so this was my practice for spring and summer of 2020. And then this past summer of 2021, I started venturing out and actually going to parks and going to sites along the lakefront because now I'm vaccinated. And so
That's deep. That's real deep. Mm-hmm.
yeah, having that, it was, for me, it was a way to prove to folks who were concerned about me being a shut-in that I'm actually getting outside. First of all, like, proof I'm actually getting outside. And it was also a way for me to start to really, it was an entree into my solo artistic practice during this era, because being in performance and being in like the very collaborative, interdisciplinary experimental type of performance that I had been producing with my collective, it is really all about gathering people in the room, and you have to be there to experience the movements and the dialogue and all the elements that come with live performance, right? But in just this sliver of 60 seconds, 90 seconds of me hula hooping, there was just such an affirmation and empowerment and a bolstering of my wellness, of my mental and physical wellness, as well as my creative juices, learning how to do different movements with the hula hoop, the hula hoop being kind of like a dance partner. Because I don't like partner dancing. I like to do my own thing when I get down. But the hula hoop has been like a dance partner. And so you and quite a few other people have been pretty much like faithfully following my hula hoop sessions, my hoop sesh videos. And so as the summer was coming to an end, I had, announced, like, kind of close to the solstice. I'm like, oh, well, summer is coming to an end, and so are my hoop videos. And then you commented on that post. You were like, yo, we need a montage of, and it was perfect timing because even though I am in this 2-year fellowship, simultaneously, I was in a 1-year residency with another organization called Co-Prosperity Sphere here in Chicago. And I had to have a culminating like public program. And so what I wanted to do to show that year, which actually coincided with the first year of my Three Walls Fellowship, I took your idea and ran with it. And like, well, yeah, we got this footage already. You're coming to me as a filmmaker saying, yo, you need a montage. So I'm like, yo, you down? You available to collab? And it just organically, remotely happened. I shared, the raw files with you, and we had a couple of really productive, nuanced production meetings and draft sessions. And yeah, it turned out to be a little under 8 minutes, but a beautiful montage of my year and how, the hula hoop practice really was a portal. So the combination of my hula hoop videos, but also my pictures, my photographs of taking pictures of the neighborhood across that first year of the pandemic, of quarantine. And, seeing, for instance, there's a lot of street art and murals in my neighborhood, but there is a Breonna Taylor mural that has been repeatedly defaced over the past year. And so, I wanted to shine a light on that. I didn't want to just highlight, well, my hula hoop practice here in Bucktown, like how does it relate to Bucktown, and how does, so right, Bucktown, by the way, folks, is the name of my neighborhood in Chicago.
For those who don't know, it's not referring to
the thing is, like, I don't know how many hip hop heads are listening, but Boot Camp Click, Smith and Wesson, they have a song called Bucktown, home of the original gun clappers. So just wanted to make that distinction.
Okay. You know what? Let me just say that too, because as far as wanting to make a video with you, that's definitely something I really enjoy. But yes, thank you for the opportunity to actually do it and to, believe that I could do it. It definitely made an impact on me and made me feel more confident and made me feel like, yeah, I could do this for people. I can definitely help bring a vision together. And, I often feel inadequate. I definitely have imposter syndrome and anxiety, all the things that artists typically have. So when something comes together and we can like get to the end and then it actually has a screening date, I'm like, oh, that's like what life is meant for. So I just was so grateful to have the opportunity to do that with you. And and I'm a firm believer that we just go further together, like as far as collaboration, because I'm as an ethnographer, as an anthropologist, I'm alone, and it's taught to us to work alone. You need to be able to do it by yourself or do all the jobs by yourself. And as I got into the professional realm, I just realized like, oh, I'm not going to get very far by myself. I'm not going to get funding by myself. I'm not going to get a footage by myself. I'm not going to get anything by myself. You're going to have to collaborate. Now, in my case, I try to collaborate with my subject. So like you're the subject, but you're also the producer, and that makes it go a lot better because you have a vision. And I sometimes don't always have all the I can't always see all the details. Sometimes I just want to see the big picture, but sometimes for people who are artists, it's hard to see the big picture. And they're like, oh, I just film every day. Yeah, but you could make a movie out of that, So I just felt like that vision came together so well. And it was so exciting. And it made me feel like, wow, I should continue to pursue this. And, at that time I was also doing my application to Stanford. So it just made me feel like, yes, whatever may come with that is one thing, but you're doing this, you're prepared, you can do this. So I
am so happy to hear that it gave you that type of boost and it had that impact on your practice, because I just felt so grateful. Like I'm saying, like you opened the door for the whole thing to really pop off, and the timing, again, it was just so perfect because I had to like submit like, okay, this is what my culminating program is going to be. And so once we had our conversation about putting together a montage, I was like, look at that, I'm actually, and then to have like, that was the first time I ever had credits where I'm listed as producer and director. I was like, it was just, wow, all these things that are like, yeah, the affirmation of right, and fuck that imposter syndrome. I know it happens, but like I'm saying, like we are in this moment where all bets are off, and what is considered valuable and leverageable look, our autonomy, agency, and mobility is what is going to forge this new way of work. I mean, it's already started. Like the deluge of people who are like, I'm out of this rat race, I'm out of this cubicle life. I ain't got to be in no fucking office at no fucking desk in a building that you say I gotta be in. I'm telling you,
It's
yeah,
happening. Let's talk
it's
about
happening.
that too. So let's get to the last part, which is how to get the bag. Okay. Because that's the other part I aspire to be like you, being able to be an artist full time. And I know that was a transition also. So let's just talk a little bit about how, what's your process for getting funding and, why that's important, or what have you learned from, getting funding from different organizations?
I mean, I'll say that my experience as both an artist and a former arts administrator in a nonprofit performance organization, yeah, the grant cycle is never ending. Ain't no like quarterly or yearly. I mean, you may have like, those types of, campaigns or certain cycle, but it's ongoing. It's really a part-time and in some cases a full-time job just to research and find, relevant, applicable, eligible funding sources. Um, I don't have development, I don't have a development background. Just pretty much my whole thing has been like, learning as I go, learning on the job, primarily on some spook who sat by the door shit, like learning and absorbing and retaining information. And, having dealt with, program officers, having dealt with, applications that are just so arbitrary, it really is important. I think the number one piece of advice I could give from my experience and perspective is really identify those grants that really align authentically and truly with your project. Don't, especially in this moment, like I'm saying, like keep it really real with yourself and the people. There's just so much performance that goes on, and like this term grant speak, right? Like I am a communicator, I can code switch, I can switch it on and off, but I am steadily getting out of that bag. And so, because grants and the nonprofit industrial complex and philanthropy is really still the behemoth that it's always been, um it is, advantageous to have some literacy about those processes and to understand that, yeah, it is going to be labor intensive because you're talking about money. And also, depending on where the purse strings come from, just like if it's a sugar daddy, right? Like you got to know something is going to be expected in return in some form or fashion. And, it's, yeah, it's a lot of really understanding your non-negotiables, period. And that's whether you're, talking about applying for grants and funding or looking for collaborators. You got to know your non-negotiables. It's so essential because it's part of boundary work. That's boundary work 101, is to know what you ain't here for, period.
And what
And
your value is.
yeah. And also, speaking of knowing what your value is, knowing what your vision is going to cost, having some range of knowing. So when you are applying for grants, it's not just some pie in the sky. Oh, I want this. I want, like, get used to attaching a dollar amount. Do some Googling, do some research about, you don't have to necessarily be, on the US Labor Department website for every little thing. But, if you don't have no idea what market value is for certain roles, for instance, for team members that you're trying to recruit, and on your shoestring budget, you can't offer market value, figure out what is comparable, figure out what are the in-kind aspects that you can either provide or accept, in lieu of funding. Because it's about, man, it's not just about funding, it's about being able to barter and trade too. It's about being able to have a cooperative, collective economic model amongst your creative community. But also understanding that relationship building is also time intensive. You gotta work at, I think it was Adrienne Marie Brown, maybe in her emergent strategy. Was it pleasure activism or emergent strategy? But I think it was Adrienne Marie Brown. She said, move at the speed of trust. And as we know, trust ain't built overnight. We know as Black people, as diasporic people, the phrase sleeping with one eye open, listen, I got insomnia in this bitch. Okay.
Yeah, Black people can't sleep too sound, bitch. Something might happen. Hold on.
Baby, I got insomnia like a motherfucker. So
yeah.
So all that is to say is to, ultimately work smarter as opposed to harder, because we've been working hard.
Yeah.
We've been working hard. We've been swimming upstream. And I mean, and we still are. I mean, it's definitely going to continue. But yeah, it's getting clear, getting clarity, mind mapping your own metrics of success to then be able to identify the bags, the people, the equipment, the locations, like all of the things that are ultimately, what you're trying to do. What is the impact that you're trying to do, and who are you trying to make it with, and for what, and for why? Like all of these questions that you should definitely be figuring out your own metrics too at this point. That's really, particularly in this pandemic era. Figure out, take this end of year time. I know, we're filming this in December of 2021, and who knows when folks will
watch it.
see it. But at this end of year time that we're filming this is such a valuable time to, assess, take into account the inner work that you're doing too, to enable you to really align what your external work and practices are going to be for the next year, for the next couple of years. There's just
and I would even add, for this last year, I've learned to add rest to the bill. I've got to build in rest to what it costs, what it costs to rest, because I have to rest as well to be able to do this work. And as I understand better, as I step into the role more, I realize, oh, baby girl, you gotta have the downtime too, and somebody's got to pay for that. We got to pay for that spa day. You know what I'm saying? We need that spa day, because I won't be able to go back out here and be creative or have the energy to put the work together, to bring the people together, unless I've rested myself. Yeah,
that's right. And also, not only having, listen, you're paying your retainer fee or whatever it's paying me, when I'm not on the clock, because even when I'm off the clock, I'm still on the clock, because there's mental energy, there's spiritual energy that goes into what I'm building, right? But also know that sometimes, you know what I'm saying, all money ain't good money. The concept of, oh, don't, you dropped a bag or you left money on the table, because that money ain't for me. It was too many strings. Just like, honestly, real talk, all dick ain't good dick. Sometimes some dick is more trouble than it's fucking worth.
There you go. I'd rather be bothersome by myself. Thank you.
I'm like, look, I've been busting nuts on my own since I learned how to rub one out on the edge of a chair in kindergarten.
Okay.
So, if I listen,
look, who needs the headache? I feel you. I'm with you. I mean, to that end, because you were talking about how to divest or decolonize, what does that mean for you, and what does that mean for funding for you as well?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I have been blessed, again, coming back to this fellowship. This is the first time that I've ever had this level of support for my artistic practice, particularly as a solo practitioner. And so with the award money that comes with that, I mean, that's pretty much been my salary for the pandemic. And it's just such a blessing. Um, it is really in my experience, it's been a pastiche outside of having this award and this fellowship support, uh, and which is coming from a Black-led, Black-focused contemporary arts organization in Chicago, and
Yeah,
segregated as Chicago.
that's
So I
good.
just
Yeah.
feel very blessed to have that happening in this pandemic era. Outside of that, though, it's a quilt, it's a pastiche of, you know, guest, lecturing, or guest artist residencies, or, guest contributors for a blog, or, some type of written project. There's been different commissions for performance and writing projects. So all of these ways that, even when you have, your foundation or your core practice, understand that a certain level of interdisciplinarity, intersectional, or, a praxis is,
Necessary.
man, gonna always be more, it's gonna be better for you as a practitioner, because it opens you up to be able to, again, identify your non-negotiables when you're out amongst different audiences, amongst different environs of collaborators or audiences. And it's it's yeah, it's really interesting, because I have done, before the pandemic, I was a guest presenter on things like, work-life balance, and, what are some best practices for an emerging artist. And the things that I used to focus on and talk about pre-pandemic are obsolete pretty much at this
Wow.
point,
Hmm.
because, yeah, I'm learning as everyone else is. And I think that's the thing, like, keeping a mindset of agility versus rigidity, like we were talking about earlier, like in terms of being just so stuck on whatever form of training you have, and thinking that, oh, well, it's supposed to line up this way because this is how I was trained.
Hmm.
Like, that ain't it, boo boo. What's not clicking? What's not clicking? We're
Right.
in this panini right now, so
Yeah.
shit is different.
It's different.
Yesterday's price is not
At
today's
today's
price.
price. Hello. Okay. That's something else.
Period.
That's something else I learned during the pandemic. My price go up every day. They talking about inflation, baby. I got inflation too.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's inflation all over this bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. We all gonna inflate together then. How about that? My price going up too. That's what it is.
Yep. And listen, that is what's up, literally. And if it's up, then it's stuck.
Up. If it's up, then it's up. Okay.
See, that's me going into my full auntie mode. Like, I'm still hip. If it's up,
No.
then it's up.
I'm with you. First of all, you're gorgeous. So whatever, auntie. You ain't even in hot auntie mode. And that's why I was watching them hula hoop videos. I'm like, okay, let me get in shape too. Hold on.
It is
Okay.
so much fun. And actually, my connect on the hoop, she's based out in LA. So you gotta use my affiliate link, and I'll send you her info on the gram.
Yeah, the more entertainers, the better. Well, this
Yes.
has been so great. Thank you so much for joining me today. Why don't you just tell us, how people can follow you or stay, in touch with some of your performances or future online performances, maybe future in-person performances?
Yeah, I am on the gram under, at Felicia Holman. I keep my profile private because it keeps the creeps away
Yeah.
for the
So send
most
a
part.
DM. Let me know how you're doing it.
But you can slide in the DMs. You can request to follow me on Instagram. That's really the best place now. I do have Facebook still, but I'm really not that active there anymore. So really, yeah, Instagram is the place at Felicia Holman, all one word.
Yay. And I definitely recommend following you. You do have lots of art and culture and stories and just everything, hip hop, house, Prince. I love it. It's just like a great thread. So thank you for
Oh,
sharing your life with us. Yeah.
thank you for inviting me once again, Ife. Love talking to you. And hey, everybody, have a great end of the year. And if you're watching this at the first of the year, Happy
Right.
New Year.
Have a great time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Peace. Oh, wait, hold on. How do I do this?